Princess Mira was born on a cold, quiet night in the heart of the Varnic Empire. The empire stretched across many stars and planets, ruled by an ancient family who believed in strength, tradition, and the power of their bloodline. Mira's parents, the king and queen, had waited many years for an heir. When Mira came into the world, the whole palace was filled with hope, but that hope soon turned to silence. From the moment she was born, it was clear Mira had a problem she could not have. Children. The healers in the palace tried many treatments, but nothing worked in Varnic culture. Having children was not just a personal matter, it was a duty, a promise to the future of their people. The royal family needed an heir to keep the bloodline strong and the empire united. Without children, the princess was seen as a failure. Mira was just a child when the whispers began. The palace halls, which once felt warm and full of life, became cold and empty for her. The servants avoided her eyes, the nobles whispered behind her back, and even her own family treated her as if she was invisible. Her older brother, Prince Ral, was proud and strong, and he seemed to grow more favored each day. Mira watched from the shadows as everyone praised him for his strength and future as the ruler. Despite the coldness around her, Mira did not let herself fall apart. She was smart, curious, and kind. She loved books and stories of distant stars, and she spent hours in the royal library learning about the universe beyond their world, the stars. She thought, we're endless and full of possibilities, something very different from the small, rigid life she was expected to live. Mira's mother, the queen, had grown distant. Once warm and loving, the queen now only showed disappointment when she looked at Mira. A princess who cannot give birth is a shadow on the throne, the queen said once in a quiet room. Her voice sharp but filled with sadness. The king tried to hide his feelings but was no different. He met Mira's eyes and saw only the weight of the empire's future slipping away. You must understand, he said one evening. The throne cannot be weakened. Our people need a strong ruler, one who will continue our legacy. Mira nodded silently, though her heart ached. She loved her family, but she wished they could see her for who she truly was, not just for what she could or could not do. The court was cruel in its own way. Nobles competed for power. By gaining favor with the king and queen, many saw Mira as a weakness, a chance to undermine the royal family. They talked openly about replacing her with someone better, someone who could carry the bloodline forward. One day, a council meeting was held in the grand hall of the palace. Mira sat in the back, her head low, listening as the nobles discussed plans for the future. The council leader, a tall man named Varek, spoke coldly. The princess cannot fulfill her duties. We must consider alternative heirs. A murmur rose among the nobles. Mira's heart pounded. She wanted to stand and defend herself, but the weight of years told her silence was safer. The king's voice cut through the room. We are still family. Mira is my daughter, and she will always have a place here. But his words sounded weak. Even to him, after the meeting, Mira returned to her chambers, where only the quiet company of her personal servant, Lyra, awaited her. Lyra was one of the few kind souls in the palace. She never judged Mira or whispered behind her back. Instead, she listened and offered a small smile when Mira needed it most. Do not lose hope. Your Highness, Lyra said gently, there are many ways to be strong. Mira looked out the window into the night sky, the stars shining brightly as if encouraging her to dream. But I'm not what they want. I'm not enough, Mira whispered. No, Lyra said firmly. You are more than they see. Sometimes, the greatest strength comes from inside, not from what others expect. Days passed, and the court's coldness did not lessen. But Mira found small moments of peace in her books and quiet talks with Lyra. She began to dream of other worlds and other lives where she could be free from the heavy crown of expectation. One afternoon, Mira visited the palace gardens alone. The gardens were full of strange plants and flowers from across the empire, and the fresh air was a rare gift. As she walked among the trees, she noticed a group of nobles watching her with disapproval. You should not be here, one of them said loudly. A princess who cannot have children should not waste time on trivial things. Mira's hands clenched, but she said nothing. Instead, she looked up at the sky and took a deep breath. She remembered Lyra's words about strength from within. Maybe the palace was not the only place where she could find her worth. That night, Mira dreamed of stars and ships traveling far beyond the empire. She dreamed of a future where she was not defined by what she could not do, but by what she could become. As she woke, she made a silent promise to herself. She would find her own path. No matter how hard it seemed, even if the empire scorned her, she would not give up. But the question remained, how could she break free from a world that only valued what she lacked? And what would happen when new visitors arrived from distant stars, bringing with them a chance to change everything? The day the human ship arrived was unlike any other in the history of the Varnic Empire. A large, silver vessel drifted silently into the skies above the palace, shining under the twin suns. The palace guards watched nervously, and the court buzzed with whispered questions. Visitors from other planets were rare, and visitors from Earth, the home of humans, were almost unheard of. Princess Mira stood at the highest balcony, watching the ship. It was strange and unfamiliar, like nothing she had ever seen before. The stars she had dreamed about felt suddenly real and close. She wondered who would come out of that ship. Inside the ship, a small team of humans prepared to step onto Varnic. Among them was Tom, a soldier assigned to the peacekeeping mission. Tom was tall and strong, with clear eyes that held kindness and quiet determination. His job was to represent humanity and help build trust between the planets. But he was also curious. This was his first time on an alien world. When Tom's boots touched the ground of Varnic, many eyes turned to him. The nobles watched carefully, ready to judge the newcomer. Tom noticed the cold stares but did not show fear. He was used to challenges and had learned to be calm even in difficult moments. The palace officials escorted Tom and his team to meet the king and queen. The hall was grand and intimidating, filled with tall pillars and golden decorations. Tom bowed politely before the rulers. King Varnic looked at the human soldier with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "You come from Earth," he said slowly. "Why should we trust your people?" Tom smiled gently. "We come to share peace and friendship. Our worlds are different, but we can learn from each other." The queen studied Tom carefully. "Peace is what we need," she said, her voice softer than before. "But trust must be earned." As the meeting ended, Tom asked quietly if he could meet Princess Mira. The king was surprised. "Why do you ask for her?" Tom looked at the floor for a moment before answering. "I have heard about her strength and intelligence. I want to understand her better." The court was shocked. No one had ever asked to meet the princess. They saw her as weak and unimportant. But the king finally agreed, perhaps curious or maybe hoping to test this human's intentions. Mira was waiting in her chamber when Tom arrived. She was nervous but tried to hide it. The door opened and Tom stepped inside. "Princess Mira," Tom said with a respectful bow, "it is an honor to meet you." Mira nodded. "Thank you for coming." They sat across from each other, to very different people from different worlds. Tom was open and friendly, while Mira was careful and reserved. "Tell me about your world," Tom asked. "What is it like to live here?" Mira smiled faintly. "It is beautiful but strict. Our people care about strength and family above all else. But I have never fit their idea of what a princess should be." Tom listened carefully. "That sounds hard. On Earth, we also have our struggles. People judge others quickly, but I believe everyone has value." Mira felt a warmth inside her. No one had ever spoken to her like this. "Why do you want to know me?" Tom looked up. "Because I believe in looking beyond what others say. I want to see who you are, not what the court expects." They talked for hours, sharing stories about their lives, hopes, and fears. Mira told Tom about her dreams of stars and distant places. Tom shared tales of Earth's cities, forests, and oceans. For the first time in a long while, Mira felt understood. Over the next days, Tom returned often to visit Mira. They walked in the palace gardens, talking quietly about everything. Tom was different from the cold nobles. He asked questions and listened without judgment. Word spread quickly through the palace about the strange friendship between the human soldier and the alien princess. Some nobles whispered angrily, calling Tom a foolish outsider. Others watched, silently, unsure what to think. Mira's brother, Prince Raoul, was not pleased. He met Tom with cold eyes and a warning. "Stay away from my sister. She is not for you." Tom did not back down. "I only want to be her friend," he said calmly. Raoul laughed bitterly. "Friend, you do not understand our ways. This will end badly for you." Mira wished she could tell her brother to stop. She wished she could tell the court that she was more than what they said. But the fear of causing more pain held her silent. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned deep purple, Mira and Tom sat together under a great tree in the garden. "Do you think people can change?" Mira asked. Tom looked up at the stars. "I believe they can. It takes time and courage. But change is possible." Mira's heart stirred with hope. Maybe, with Tom's friendship, she could find a new path. Maybe she could show her people that strength was not just in children or bloodlines, but in the heart. That night, Mira dreamed of stars again. But this time, she was not alone. Tom stood beside her, and together they reached for a future where she would no longer be shunned but respected. The arrival of the human soldier had opened a new door, one filled with uncertainty but also promise. Mira did not know what lay ahead, but she was ready to face it, because for the first time, she felt that she was not alone. Days passed quietly in the Varnic Palace, but for Princess Mira, something was changing. The arrival of Tom, the human soldier, brought a new light to her world, a light she had never seen before. Despite the cold walls of the palace and the judgment from the nobles, Mira found a friend in Tom. Each morning, Tom visited her chambers. They would sit by the large windows that looked out over the vast empire, sharing stories and learning about each other's lives. Mira was fascinated by Tom's world, the blue oceans, green forests, and tall mountains of Earth. Tom, in turn, was curious about the strange and beautiful customs of Varnic. One day, as Tom sat with a small book of Earth stories, Mira asked softly, "Tell me, Tom, why do your people fight so much? On Earth, I have heard there is a lot of war." Tom nodded slowly. "Yes, we have had wars, but we also have peace. It is a choice people make. Sometimes fear and misunderstanding lead to fighting, but people can learn to trust each other." Mira looked down, thinking, "Here, in Varnic, we fear weakness. They say I am weak because I cannot have children. They do not see who I am." Tom reached out and gently placed his hand over hers. "You are not weak. You are strong in ways they do not understand." Mira smiled for the first time in a long while. "Thank you, Tom. You make me feel hopeful." Their friendship deepened. Quickly, Tom's presence brought Mira laughter and comfort. He did not treat her like a princess who failed her people. He treated her like a person with dreams and feelings. But not everyone was happy. The court grew restless. Rumors spread like wildfire that Mira and the human soldier were too close. Some nobles whispered that Tom was using Mira for power. Others warned the king that the alliance with humans might damage Varnic's reputation. One afternoon, Mira overheard a conversation between two high-ranking nobles. "She spends too much time with that outsider," one said. "It will bring shame to the throne." "She cannot bring children," the other replied coldly. "If the princess continues down this path, it could ruin the family." Mira's heart ached. The words were cruel, but they were true in the eyes of the court. That evening, Mira confided in Tom. "They do not want me to be happy. They want me to be weak and alone." Tom shook his head. "You must show them a different kind of strength. Not with words, but with actions." Mira nodded thoughtfully. "But what can I do? I am just one person." Tom smiled gently. "Sometimes one person can change everything. You just have to believe it." The next day, Tom invited Mira to join him on a walk outside the palace walls. The palace gardens were beautiful but limited. Beyond the walls lay the bustling city of Varnic, full of people with hopes, fears, and stories like hers. As they walked through the city streets, Mira noticed how different life was from the palace. The people here were busy and tired, but also kind in their own ways. Children played. Merchants shouted their prices, and friends greeted each other warmly. "Is this your real home?" Mira asked. Tom nodded. "It is where I grew up, where I learned to fight not just with weapons, but with hope." Mira felt a strange warmth in her chest. For the first time, she felt connected to a world outside the palace, one that accepted people for who they were, not what they could produce. They stopped at a small market stall where a vendor was selling fresh fruit. Tom bought two pieces and handed one to Mira. "Try it," he said. Mira bit into the fruit and smiled at the sweet taste. "It is good," Tom laughed. "Life is full of good things if we open our eyes." As they walked back to the palace, Mira realized how much she had changed. Tom had shown her that she could be more than what the court said. She could be herself. When they returned, Mira found herself standing taller. She was still a princess. But now she felt stronger, not because of her birth, but because of her spirit. That night, Mira wrote in her private journal, a habit she kept since childhood. She wrote about her hopes and fears, but also about the new friendship that had given her courage. Meanwhile, in the palace, the nobles grew uneasy. Prince Raoul watched Mira closely. He did not understand how a human soldier could have such an effect on his sister. "She must be careful," he warned her one evening. "The court will not accept this. You risk everything." Mira looked at her brother with sadness. "I am tired of hiding, Raoul. I want to live my life honestly." Raoul shook his head. "That is not our way." Mira turned away, feeling the heavy weight of her family's expectations, but no longer willing to be crushed by them. In the days that followed, Mira and Tom continued their meetings. They shared plans for the future, not just for themselves, but for the Varnic people. Tom spoke of cooperation between worlds, of learning from each other's strengths. One afternoon, Mira asked, "Do you think humans and Varnic can truly live in peace?" Tom looked at her with steady eyes. "I believe they can, if people like us are brave enough to try." Mira nodded, feeling a new fire inside her. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, she was ready to face it with hope, not fear. As the stars rose over the Varnic Empire, Mira and Tom sat side by side, looking out into the night. Two very different beings, united by a simple truth. Friendship can grow in the most unlikely places, even where hope seemed lost. The palace was alive with excitement and tension. News had come that the neighboring planet, Zion, wanted to strengthen ties with the Varnic Empire. The king and his council decided that the best way to secure peace was through marriage alliances. Many nobles whispered about who might be chosen to marry a prince or princess from Zion, a union that could secure power and influence for Princess Mira. These talks were both frightening and confusing. She had spent her life feeling like an outsider, and now she faced the possibility of being forced into a marriage she did not want, especially with her secret inability to bear children. The court expected her to find a suitable match quickly, but she doubted anyone would accept her for who she truly was. One afternoon, as Mira walked through the palace gardens, lost in thought, Tom approached her quietly. His expression was serious, but kind. "Mira," he said softly, "I have something to ask you." She looked at him, surprised. "What is it, Tom?" Tom took a deep breath. "I want to marry you." The words hung in the air, shocking Mira. Her eyes widened. "Marry me? But why? You are from another world. I am a princess who cannot give children. The court will never accept this." Tom smiled gently. "I don't care about what the court thinks. I see you for who you are: strong, smart, kind. I want to stand by your side, not because of politics or duty, but because I respect and care for you." Mira felt a mix of emotions: fear, hope, and disbelief. No one had ever offered her such kindness and honesty. The thought that someone would want to marry her, knowing everything, was almost too much to believe. "But what will your people say?" she asked quietly. "My people? They are learning that strength comes in many forms. I will explain, and I will stand with you, no matter what." Mira looked away, thinking of the court and the harsh words she had heard for years. Could she risk this? Could she break the rules and choose her own path before she could answer? A group of palace guards appeared. Your Highness, the council, has requested your presence. Tom nodded respectfully. I will wait for you. Mira took a deep breath and followed the guards into the grand hall, where the king and council members were already gathered. The room was tense, and many eyes turned toward her. King Varnic's voice was steady but serious. Princess, we have heard of your friendship with the human soldier. Now, we hear you may be considering a union with him. Mira held her head high. Yes, father. Tom has asked for my hand in marriage. Gasps and murmurs filled the hall. The council leader, Varric, stepped forward. This is unacceptable. The Varnic bloodline must remain pure. A human is an outsider and worthy of our princess. Prince Raoul's face darkened with anger. Mira, you risk everything. This is a mistake. Mira looked around, feeling the weight of their judgment. But she felt stronger than ever. She turned to Tom, who stood quietly at her side. I understand your fears, she said. But Tom sees me for who I am, not just for what I cannot do. Our union is not just about bloodlines, it is about trust, respect, and hope for the future. Tom stepped forward. I asked for Princess Mira's hand because I believe together we can build a better tomorrow, not just for us but for both our peoples. The hall grew silent. The king looked at his daughter, then at Tom. He saw the courage in their eyes, the promise of something new. Finally, he spoke. This decision is not mine alone. The council will vote. But know this, princess. Mira, you have my respect for your honesty and strength. The council members whispered among themselves. Some were angry, others curious. No one was sure what the future would hold. As Mira left the hall, Tom took her hand. No matter what happens, I am with you. Mira squeezed his hand. Thank you, Tom, for believing in me. That night, Mira lay awake thinking about the future. She knew the road ahead would be difficult. The court would resist, the people might reject her, and her family could turn against her. But for the first time, she felt hope, a hope that love and courage could change even the oldest traditions. The next morning, news of Tom's proposal spread through the empire like wildfire. Some cheered the idea of a new kind of union between worlds, others protested loudly, saying it was a betrayal of Varnic's history. Mira faced whispers and stares. But she also received quiet support from unexpected places, servants who smiled warmly, young nobles who admired her bravery, and even some council members who began to question old rules. Prince Raoul refused to speak to her. He believed she had chosen the wrong path and that she was risking everything for a human soldier. But Mira did not waver. Together with Tom, she began meeting with council members and citizens to talk about their vision for the future. They spoke of respect, partnership, and the strength found in unity rather than blood alone. Slowly, seeds of change were planted. One evening, as Mira and Tom watched the twin suns set, she turned to him and said, "Whatever happens, I'm glad you asked. You gave me something I never thought I could have, a choice." Tom smiled. "And you gave me hope that we can be stronger together, under the vast sky of stars." Two very different lives were joined not by duty, but by courage and love. The path ahead was uncertain, but for Mira, the future was finally hers to shape. The palace halls, once silent and cold toward Princess Mira, now buzzed with tension. The news of her engagement to Tom, the human soldier, had stirred strong feelings across the empire. Some saw it as a brave step toward a new future, while others viewed it as a dangerous break from tradition. Mira felt the weight of both hope and opposition pressing down on her. The king had allowed the council to vote on her marriage proposal, but the decision was far from certain. The council was divided. Some nobles wanted to embrace the possibility of peace and change, while others insisted the royal bloodline must stay pure. The debates were long and fierce. One morning, Mira entered the grand hall for a council meeting. The room was filled with stern faces, many of which stared coldly at her. Council leader Varric spoke first. "Princess, your choice challenges everything our ancestors built. How can we trust an outsider from a distant world?" How can we be sure this union will not weaken the Empire? Mira met his gaze steadily. I understand your fears, but I ask you to look beyond old customs. Strength comes from unity and understanding, not just blood. A noble named Solon stood up. And what if this union fails? What if the humans bring weakness instead of strength? Tom, standing beside Mira, stepped forward. On Earth, we have made many mistakes, but we have also learned to grow stronger through cooperation. I promise to honor the Varnic Empire and stand by Mira, no matter what. Some council members nodded thoughtfully, but many remained unconvinced. Prince, Rao was there too. His eyes burned with anger as he spoke sharply. This is not just about strength. It is about loyalty and honor. Mira, you are risking everything for a human soldier. What will your people think? Mira's heart ached at her brother's words, but she held her ground. I choose to be loyal to what is right, not just what is expected. The debate continued. For hours, some council members argued fiercely against the marriage, while others quietly supported it. The king watched carefully, silent but thoughtful. After the meeting, Mira retreated to her chambers. She felt exhausted but determined. Tom joined her, offering quiet comfort. We will face many challenges, Tom said softly, but together, we can overcome them. Mira nodded. I know. I just wish my family could see me for who I am. Tom took her hand gently. They will, in time. Your courage is already changing minds. Days passed, and the court's hostility did not lessen. Mira found herself the target of cold glances and whispered insults. Some nobles spread rumors, saying Tom was a spy, or that Mira was being controlled by humans. One night, Mira overheard the servants talking. Did you hear? The princess is losing the throne because of that soldier. She should be punished for bringing shame. Mira's eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them away. She could not let their words break her spirit. Instead, she began to focus on helping her people. She visited hospitals, schools, and markets. Listening to the citizens' needs, she spoke kindly and worked to build trust. Tom supported her every step. Together, they showed the people a new way, one of hope and cooperation. Meanwhile, Prince Rao's anger grew. He gathered supporters who believed Mira's actions were dangerous. They began plotting to stop the marriage. One evening, Rao confronted Mira in the palace corridors. You are making a mistake, he warned. If you go through with this, you will lose everything. Mira looked at him with sadness. I am losing their approval already, but I am gaining something more important myself. Rao shook his head. You do not understand our world. I am learning every day. Mira replied calmly. The confrontation ended without violence. But Mira knew the fight was far from over. As the council prepared to cast their final vote, Mira felt a mix of hope and fear. She had fought hard to be heard, but the future was uncertain. On the day of the vote, the grand hall was packed. The king called the meeting to order. Council members, today you decide the future of the Varnic Empire, he said. Choose wisely. One by one, the nobles spoke, some supporting the union, others opposing. Finally, the vote was cast. The results were close, but the majority approved the marriage. But cheer rose from the supporters. But many nobles looked away. In disappointment, Mira felt a wave of relief and gratitude. She had won a chance to shape her own future. The king stepped forward. Princess Mira and Tom, your courage honors this empire. May your union bring peace and strength. Tom bowed respectfully. Thank you, your majesty. I vow to protect and serve this empire alongside Mira. Mira smiled, her heart full. The road ahead would still be difficult, but now she had the support she needed. That night, as Mira and Tom walked under the stars, she whispered, We did it. Tom smiled. This is only the beginning. Together, they looked toward the future, a future where love and courage could overcome fear and tradition. The morning after the council's decision, the palace felt different. There was a quiet energy, as if the walls themselves knew something new had begun. Princess Mira woke early, the first light of the twin suns warming her room. She looked out the window, thinking about the path ahead, not easy, but hers to walk. Tom was already waiting for her in the garden. When Mira stepped outside, he smiled warmly. "Good morning, Mira. Today, we start a new chapter." Mira returned the smile. "Yes, together." The palace staff and citizens had heard the news, and reactions were mixed. Some cheered the union as a hopeful future, others grumbled in the shadows. But Mira and Tom were ready to face it all. Over the next weeks, preparations began for the wedding. Not just a ceremony, but a symbol of unity between Earth and Varnic. The palace was decorated with flowers from both worlds, and diplomats arrived to witness the historic event. Mira found herself busy with meetings and plans, but she never lost sight of what mattered most: building trust between their peoples. One afternoon, while walking through the market district with Tom, Mira noticed a group of children playing. She stopped to watch them laugh and chase one another, their joy a reminder of why she fought so hard. A small boy approached her shyly. "Are you really the princess?" Mira smiled kindly. "Yes, I am." The boy's eyes sparkled. "I want to be brave like you." Mira knelt down. "You are brave already. Never forget that." Tom watched the scene, proud of Mira's gentle strength. "You inspire people in ways you might not even realize." Mira looked at him. "I only hope we can give everyone a chance to be brave." That evening, Mira and Tom sat together in the palace library, reviewing plans for the wedding. The room was filled with books and quiet light, a place of calm before the busy days ahead. Suddenly, a message arrived from the neighboring planet Zion. Their prince, who had been considered as a possible match for Mira, sent his congratulations. He promised to support the union and seek friendship between their worlds. The news was a surprise, but also a sign of changing times. Mira felt hope swell inside her. The wedding day arrived quickly. The palace was filled with guests from Varnic, Earth, and many other planets. The air buzzed with excitement and curiosity. Mira wore a simple dress woven with delicate threads from both worlds. Her hair was adorned with flowers, and she carried a small bouquet of Earth's blue lilies, a symbol of peace. Tom looked at her with admiration and love. He wore a traditional Varnic suit, a sign of respect for Mira's culture. The ceremony took place in the Grand Hall, where the king and queen stood proudly. The guests watched quietly as Mira and Tom exchanged vows, promising to support each other through all challenges. When Tom placed a ring on Mira's finger, a soft glow filled the room, a sign believed to bless the marriage with strength and unity. The crowd erupted in applause. For many, this moment was the beginning of a new era. After the ceremony, the celebrations continued under the stars. Music from both Earth and Varnic filled the air, and people danced together, their differences forgotten in the joy of the night. Mira and Tom moved through the crowd, greeted warmly by friends and supporters. They smiled, knowing this was only the start of their journey. But the path was not without challenges. Some nobles still resisted the change, and whispers of doubt continued. Mira knew she had to work harder to prove that love and partnership could strengthen their empire. In the days that followed, Mira and Tom traveled beyond the palace, meeting with leaders and citizens across Varnic. They listened to concerns, shared ideas, and worked to build bridges. Their efforts began to show results. Communities once divided started cooperating. Trade increased between Earth and Varnic, and young people spoke openly about a future where differences were celebrated. One evening, as Mira stood on her balcony, looking at the stars, Tom joined her. "Do you ever think about what comes next?" she asked. Tom smiled. "Every day. But I believe we can face anything if we stand together." Mira leaned on his shoulder. "I am ready." Together, they looked out into the vast universe, full of possibilities and hope. For Princess Mira, the infertile alien princess who was once scorned, a new dawn had truly arrived. Months passed since the wedding, and the Varnic Empire began to change in ways no one had imagined. Princess Mira and Tom worked side by side, facing every challenge with courage and kindness. Their union was no longer just a symbol, it was a living example of what could happen when people looked beyond fear and tradition. Mira's days were full. She met with leaders from every corner of the empire, helped solve problems, and listened to her people's hopes and worries. Though she could not have children, she became a mother in another way, a mother to her people, nurturing their future with love and care. One morning, as Mira walked through a new school built for children of different planets, she saw laughter and learning in every corner. Children from Varnock, Earth, and other worlds played together, their differences forgotten in friendship. A young girl ran up to Mira. "Princess, will you tell us a story?" Mira smiled and sat down on a low bench. "Yes, I will. Once upon a time, there was a princess who was told she was not strong because she could not have children. But she found courage and friendship and love, and together, she and her friends built a world where everyone belonged." The children listened quietly, eyes wide with wonder. Tom stood nearby, watching Mira with pride. "You have changed this empire, Mira." Mira looked at him and nodded. "We changed it together." But not all challenges were gone. Some nobles still whispered against them. A group called the Old Guard believed the empire should return to old ways. They spread fear and tried to divide the people. One evening, Mira received a message. The Old Guard planned to attack the Peace Council meeting, scheduled for the next day. Mira's heart raced. She knew the council was where leaders from many worlds came to discuss cooperation and friendship. If the Old Guard succeeded, it could tear apart everything they had built. She called a meeting with Tom and her trusted advisors. "We must protect the council," she said firmly. "This is our chance to show that fear will not win." Tom nodded. "I will organize the guards. We will keep everyone safe." The next day, as leaders arrived at the Grand Hall, tension filled the air. Security was tight, but Mira knew danger was close. When the meeting began, Mira spoke with strength and hope. "We are here because we believe in peace. We will not let fear destroy what we have built." Suddenly, alarms rang through the palace. The Old Guard had attacked. Chaos erupted. Guards rushed to defend the hall, and Mira stood tall, refusing to show fear. Tom fought bravely alongside the guards. His earth training and Varnock skills made him a strong protector. Despite the attack, the council members remained calm, united by their belief in peace. The fight lasted only minutes, but it felt like hours. In the end, the Old Guard was defeated. Captured by the palace guards, Mira breathed deeply, relief flooding her. She looked at Tom, her heart full of gratitude. "We did it," she said softly. Tom smiled. Together, after the attack, the empire stood stronger than ever. The people saw how bravery and unity could overcome hate. Mira and Tom continued to work tirelessly, building schools, hospitals, and community centers. They encouraged young people to learn about different cultures and to respect each other's differences. One day, the king called Mira to his side. "You have grown into a true leader," he said kindly. "Your courage has saved our empire and given it new life." Mira bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Father. I could not have done it without Tom and the support of our people." The king smiled. "Your strength is not in having children, but in the love you give and the hope you inspire." Mira felt a warmth she had never known before. She was not alone anymore. Years later, as Mira and Tom stood together on the balcony of the palace, watching the stars shine brightly, Mira thought about the journey they had taken. From a princess scorned to a queen loved by her people, she had found her place in the universe. Tom took her hand. "What do you see, Mira?" She looked out at the endless sky. "I see a future full of possibilities where everyone can be free to live and love without fear." Tom squeezed her hand gently. "That is the legacy we leave." Mira smiled, feeling hope bloom inside her. Their story was not just theirs, it belonged to all who dared to believe in a better world. Together, they turned back into the palace, ready to face whatever the future held. For Princess Mira, the infertile alien princess who was once scorned, had become a queen of courage, love, and hope, a true hero for her people and beyond.